welcome to week 2. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to stay consistent through these 30 weeks. All right, let's get into week 2's workout. We're going to inhale up, stretch towards the sky, and then roll down through that spine. We're in a nice wide stance so we can sit into those hips and stretch and roll up. Reach up, inhale, exhale, roll down, sit into those hips and stretch. Rolling up, reach up and roll down that spine, sit into those hips and stretch. Excellent. Keep it going. We are here in week 2. If you've stuck with me so far, you're doing great. Even if you haven't, that's okay too. These are really meant to fit right into your life, however that happens for you. Stay down in this position and turn those toes out. Knees follow the toes. Turn those toes back in and turn those toes back out. We're just opening up the hips. You can place your hands on the inside and shift side to side, making sure those knees glide over those toes. Get a nice stretch in those hips. And stretch and roll up. We're going to actually stretch to one side and then stretch to the other side, shifting those hips side to side. Stretch. This is a nice little adductor stretch, but it's also a nice twist for that T-spine. And now roll up. Excellent. So we're going to do that whole thing again, reaching up and rolling down the spine, sitting into those hips and stretch. Over the course of the next 30 weeks, you'll find that the warm-ups might repeat themselves. I have a few warm-up sequences that I kind of just use on repeat depending on the workout that we're doing. This is because, your warm-up should be nice and simple. Keep it really simple. You want to hit the hips. You want to hit the breath, some of those joints. Depending on what you're doing, you might need to stretch those inner thighs or maybe warm up the shoulders a little bit more, the back. It kind of depends on the workout that you're doing, but your warm-up should reflect that a little bit. And then stretch over, and remember we're sinking into each side. You can let those hips shift, but the legs stay generally straight. Don't worry if you don't have them perfectly straight. As straight as you can get them, stay there and then shift those hips as you go from side to side. Lovely. All right, moving right along. You want your feet parallel, about hip or shoulder distance apart. We're going to sit into those heels and stand up. You want those hips to shoot back and then squeeze those glutes forward. Back and forward. I like to shoot my arms out because that helps keep my spine in line, my chest up, as opposed to falling forward. I also like to keep my head on my spine, as opposed to looking up and extending my cervical spine. Here we're going to pulse and lift. Pulse and lift. Just a little pulse, 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 and lift. And I am coming up to those toes here, but if you're not ready for that, don't worry. You can always add that in on the next round. Pulse, 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 and lift. Excellent. We did the full range of motion. Those pulses are little half steps. Now we're going to go a little bit wider than we were. So shoulder width or maybe a little bit wider depending on where your squat position is. And you want to sit straight down. Even though we're moving side to side, your weight is sitting down evenly in those legs. And then we're going to pulse, 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 and lift. Pulse, 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 and lift. Again, I'm trying to come up to those toes, but all 10 toes stay down, right? We're not going in or out. The heel should drive right over that middle toe or that second toe. You don't want those heels caving in. You don't want those heels rolling out. Stay here, up on those toes. Look to the right and look up to the left. and look up and then down. Excellent. All right, round 2, here we go. Feet shoulder or hip width apart, sitting back. So we're playing with the difference between a very neutral stance squat and a more traditional wider stance squat. So they're going to hit your muscles just slightly differently. Where most of the work is happening is going to be slightly different from side to side. And then we're adding these little pulses up into releve. If you're a dancer, you're familiar with releve, or if you're a non-dancer and don't know what that means, it's just a heel raise is what it is. But we don't want those heels to, or sorry, yeah, we don't want those ankles and heels to bow out and go over those pinky toes. We want them to drive forward over the middle toe, which usually requires just a little bit of squeezing those inner thighs. So if you're having trouble keeping your ankles going over your middle toe and not your pinky toe, just try engaging your inner thighs just a little bit, maybe a little bit of that pelvic floor. Squeeze those glutes a little bit, see if that helps. We were moving side to side, and then we're going into those pulses. Pulse, 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 and lift. Pulse, 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 and lift. Excellent. You are doing great. Keep it going. Excellent. Last one. Hold that releve. Hold up those heels, all 10 toes. Up, up, up. Yep. And look to the right. And look to the left. And look up. And lower down. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yes, my friends. All right. One more round. Here we go. We're going to sit back and forward. Back, squeeze those glutes forward. I like to think about pushing the floor away as opposed to just standing up. I feel like that engages my weight straight down through my feet. If you do have problems with your heels coming up, yes, go with the cue of sitting back into those heels. But technically speaking, we want the weight to go straight down through the whole foot. If your foot was a triangle with the point at the heel, and then the base of the triangle on the inside ball of the foot to the outside ball of the foot, right? We want our weight to go straight down into that triangle. But sometimes we have a little trouble keeping our heels down, so you might need to sit back into those heels, and that's fine. You got to find the cues that work for you. Here we're going side to side. Remember that weight is still going straight down evenly between those feet. If you're having issues with that, just skip the side to side part and do your squats in that stance to practice that. Our last set of pulses to releve. It is very windy out today, guys, so a bit brisk. Might be my last day in bare feet. We'll see. I was a farm kid, so my feet are used to being a little cold, but that's all right. Keep those heels up, look to the right. Squeeze those inner thighs a little bit, pull up on those quads. Look to the left, look up, and rest. Ooh, shake it out. Shake it out. Get a sip of water if you need it. That's true for any time. You don't have to wait for me to get water if you need it. So we're going to move right along. Start in the center of your mat with your feet together. We're going to step out into our lateral lunge. Now your lateral lunge, as opposed to like forward or back or even your curtsy lunge, your lateral lunge is going to be more like your deadlift, where all those other squats and even a Cossack squat or a Cossack squat, however you say it, is going to be more like the squat, right? But our lateral lunge, I'm sitting back, my hips back, and I'm allowing my chest to come forward versus a reverse or forward lunge where I keep my chest up and I sit down into that triple flexion and triple extension. Here, it's mainly just the hip. So you're going to stand on one side, sit into that side, and then bring that opposite side, elbow to knee, or knee to elbow, really. And in and down. I have very little weight on my moving leg. All my weight is on my standing side, and I'm in what we would call a plie. Not a ground plie, just a regular plie. But for those of you who are not familiar with the plie, it's a simple bend in the knee. My heel is down, and I have a light bend in my knee. I'm sitting into that leg. And then I'm going to flex the foot and reach it out to the side. Yes, balance is a thing. Try to ignore it. If you need to put that foot down in between your reps, that's fine. And then we're going to go slightly back. This is more to the back diagonal. 8 times, everything's an 8. Pretty much everything I do is an 8. I'm a dancer. I count to 8, and then I start back over, which is why everything's an 8. Here we go. Good. Side to side, sitting back into that heel. You'll notice my one leg stays straight. The one leg that's still in the center of the mat is straight. So you want your weight to be able to shift over to the side that you're bending and sitting into. You might feel a little inner thigh stretch depending on how tight your inner thighs are, but that's okay. As long as there's no pain, a little stretch is fine. Sit, sit, sit. Yes. Good. And then we transfer over. Now we're on the second side here. Sit into that leg, and then opposite knee comes up to that elbow. Try to have like a second pause at the top, right? You're not just kicking that knee up. You're lifting that knee to lightly tap that elbow. Everything is slow and controlled. Balance is a thing. So if you're near a wall, you can always put your hand on the wall to help you balance. That's totally fine. Or if you do have a bar, that's where the bar would come in. As you can see, I do not, although I guess I could have used my my deck railing there as my bar, but that's all right. I really like to challenge this balance here. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. So I really like to challenge balance, and so I don't actually use a bar all that often, even when I'm teaching in-person bar classes, mainly because none of the gyms I have taught at have an actual bar. So I've just made my bar classes work for freestanding, so to speak. So we got one more routine for the legs. We are going to be in the middle of our mat. We're going to shoot forward into our lunge, and then we're going to go into a reverse lunge. Now, pick a leg, because we're going to stay on one leg the whole time, and that's going to be your moving leg. Your other leg will stay in the middle of the mat. Go forward and reverse. Now, don't worry if you've got longer legs than I do and you step off your mat, that's fine. For me, the mat is a pretty good length for me. So we're going to add some pulses to this forward position. Remember, sit back. Don't worry if you're slightly leaned forward. And then we're going to add some lift-offs. Yes. If lift-offs aren't quite in your wheelhouse, you can just go in and out of that forward lunge, or you can just hold that split squat stance. Then shift to the back, and we're going to go in and out, in and out. Yes. I like our little curtsy to reverse lunge, little lift-offs here. And then coming back center, that was one. We've got 2 more. Yes, and back. Beautiful. Forward and back. Now you can totally put that foot down in between like we did in round 1. But if you want, you can always try finding that balance. It adds just a little extra oomph to the exercise. That standing leg gets a little bit more work. And then we're back to our pulses. 8 of everything, guys, 8 of everything. And then lift off. Again, if you need to put that foot down, totally fine. This is just a little shift. You'll notice I find my back heel every time. Find that heel. Find that heel. And then to the back, and we go in and out, and in and out. Yes. Ooh, that was round 2. Shake it out. We've got one more round. And again, just like last week, we're going to do all 3 rounds on one side to get at that overload principle. You know, some workouts are just to keep you consistent, right? You can stay light, you can do light weights, just move around, go for a walk, all that stuff. But if you're working out for the goal of actually changing your body, you have to overload your system. If you're trying to change your muscles, you have to overload your muscles. If you're trying to burn fat, right, you've got to overload your metabolic systems, right? If you're trying to get faster, you've got to overload those systems. If you're trying to just get better at your cardiovascular endurance, you've got to overload the system. So in order to do that, when we don't have heavy weights, if we're trying to overload our strength, right, we just increase the time under tension. So, whew, that was rough. Moving right along to that second side. We're going to go forward and back. Remember, all 3 rounds, and then we switch sides. Ooh. Of course, this is our last side, so you just have to make it through 3 more rounds of this, and then we can go into our upper body planks and some abs. Find those pulses. Good, and find those lift-offs. Excellent. So again, like I was saying, overload the system, right? So we're not only increasing the time under tension by doing all 3 rounds on one leg before switching over to the other side with very minimal rest, but we're also adding, it's not just 8 reps. I mean, it is just 8 reps, but it's 8 full reps, full range of motion, as deep as you can go, whatever your full range is. Maybe try to push it a little bit, right? Overload the mobility system in a safe way. But then we add in these pulses and liftoffs. So it's 8 full reps, 8 pulses, 8 liftoffs in the front, 8 liftoffs in the back, right? That is a lot of work. That is a lot of work. And that is what gets us to the overload on that leg. So again, don't worry if you have to take breaks and you can't quite, do all of the reps. I like how I kind of, chug my arms like I'm running in that reverse curtsy to reverse lunge lift off version. I find that funny. But don't worry if you don't get all the reps in. Don't worry if you don't find the balance. And if you're just doing, as much as you can, that's the point, right? Everybody's overload capacity is going to be different when we first start out. But as you get more comfortable, and if you are consistent, you will increase your capacity, and then you'll be able to do pretty much everything. Not pretty much, you will be able to do everything if you are consistent and if you challenge yourself in that capacity. And I'm right there with you. This sucks. Who said working out was fun? I don't believe them. It can be, and you can make fitness as fun as you can by getting in, all of the jokes and the music and all of that stuff, but fitness is also hard. All right, coming on down to our mats, my friends. We're going to find that plank. I'm going to go on my forearms, but you can totally do this on your hands if you like. We're going to take straight legs and lift them up. Try to lift from the hamstring right under the glute. I call it the butt shelf. That shelf right under the glute. And then we're going to go into our push-ups. 3, 4, keep going. Inhale down, exhale up. Chest leads you down, ribs and belly button lead you back up. Good. And take a second in child's pose. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Yes. Coming back down into that plank. and right under that butt shelf. That's the top of the hamstring and the glute that lift that straight leg up. I like to keep the foot flexed because for whatever reason it helps me keep my leg straight. But if you want to point the toe, I don't. I don't care. I care about you, not what you do. But it is a straight leg. And then we got push-ups because I love push-ups. I hate push-ups and I love push-ups. Drop your knees and hips if you need to. Totally fine if you're not on your toes yet. And I would rather this position if you can get to full range of motion versus, okay, well, I can get on my toes and I can do a little dip. We're not doing dips. We're doing push-ups. I want at least 90 degrees in that elbow. That's what you're aiming for. So if you can't get to 90 degrees on your feet, but you can on your knees, go on your knees. It's not cheating. It's not a girl push-up. It is a level 1 push-up. And it is okay to be at level 1 for as long as you need to be. Good. Keep it going. We're flying through these push-ups here because they're hard. Push-ups are hard. For everyone, I feel like. I mean, everybody has their favorite exercise, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who loves push-ups, but that person is not me. All right, so grab those weights. I'm just going to stay on my knees, but you can totally come up to a standing position if seated on your knees is not your jam. So we're going to curl those weights one at a time. I'm like a little rotation here, so my fingers start facing my thighs, and then they curl in and rotate as they come up. Yes, yes. Then we're going to rotate them out and bring them up nice and slow and lower them down nice and slow. Check your shoulders. Your shoulders should be locked down in that position. Externally rotate those arms so those elbows point out and slow. And then we're going to push those weights up overhead and bring one down at a time. Now, I love doing this for shoulders because you have to stabilize the opposite arm and shoulder as you bring the other one down and up. I really like this, especially if you don't have access to heavy weights. So then we're going to turn those fingers forward and go nice and slow into that full range of motion. So we're getting all the different variations, well, not all of them. There are way more than this, but we're getting a couple different variations of work for the curls and for the shoulders. That was round 1. Love it. Here we go. Round 2. And again, overload, people. We are overloading. So even if you don't have heavy dumbbells at home, or your dumbbells are too light for you, or you just don't have any, and you're using soup cans or wine bottles, totally fine. If you need to add a few reps, add a few reps. But we are getting both this type of curl, and then we come into the slow, externally rotated curl. Straighten those arms out all the way. That is cheating. If you don't straighten them out all the way and you kind of give yourself a little push, right, at that not even end range, but just past the elbow, that to me is cheating, right? If you have to modify with lighter weight, or like I said in the push-ups, bringing your knees and hips down to get full range of motion, that's not cheating. But cheating is not doing not full range of motion on purpose. Same thing for pull-ups, right? I mean, we can't obviously do pull-ups here because we don't have a pull-up bar. But I see a lot of people in the gym doing not full range of motion pull-ups because they don't have the strength. But they're never going to get the strength in their full range unless you work your full range. All right, lovely. Done with that. Let's finish up with some abs and some bridges and then stretch. So keep your weights handy, which I didn't. I put them back, but that's okay. Keep your weights handy. Lay on down, hands behind your head, feet flat. Inhale here, exhale, lift. You're going up and over a ball, right? Try not to just pull your head towards your feet. You want to think going up and over a ball. A little ball, just a very little ball. Obviously. Hold there, reach those arms up and pulse. Again, everything is in 8. Reaching up towards the ceiling and pulse, hold, and then come down. Butterfly your legs and do the same thing. Inhale down, exhale, lift. It's hard to keep those knees open. Don't worry about it. You might have tight adductors, something to work on. But just let those legs open and then tap those knees. Tap, 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 tap. This is the pulse variation with those knees open. Tap. And then stretch those legs out, hands behind your head, and the whole thing again. Inhale down, exhale, lift. Going up and over that ball every time. I use my fingertips on the back of my head so that I resist the urge to pull with my arms. Bring the one knee in and switch, 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 switch. Yes, nice and tight in that center, right? If there's a line going down your body, you want to hit the line, the line, the line. So come up and bring those weights onto your hips. And then you're just going to use your hands lightly to hold them into place. Inhale here, exhale, lift those hips. Inhale down, exhale, lift. Now the placement of the feet, I personally think that your heels should not be super close to your butt in this position because that might force you to use your quad a little bit more. And I'm more of a hamstring girl when I do my bridges. So I don't know why I needed an accent there, but my mom's Southern accent came out for some reason. Anyway, especially on these marches, I want my hamstring and glute to be locked into place. And as I bring one leg up, I want the opposite hamstring to work together with the opposite side oblique. That's what we're aiming for. Now we're going to go into a 1.5 rep, right? So we go all the way up, we come halfway down, and then back up before we come all the way down. You also don't want your feet too far away from your butt because then it's all going to be hamstrings. And we do want the hamstring and glute to be partners. They are partners. They're buddies. They're workout buddies in this situation here. So I like if you can bring your knees up, your knees should kind of travel right over your heel-ish. Somewhere in and around that area is usually pretty good. So we're going to go back into those abs. Lovely little abs. Yes, yes, yes. Don't forget that breath. Don't hold your breath. Try not to hold your breath. Oxygen helps. Not a ton, but it helps a little bit. Reach those arms up and pulse, 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 pulse. Lovely. We're just knitting those ribs together. And then butterfly those feet. Let those hips open and curl. Ab curl. Yes. Excellent, guys. You're doing great, and we are almost there. We're almost there. And tap those knees. Tap, tap. These are those obliques, those little obliques. Yes. Over the river into the woods to the little obliques we go. Stretch out those legs and curl up. Try to relax your legs. Try to relax your legs as much as you can in each of these positions. The legs are not what's doing the work. We're trying to isolate those abs. One knee in, other leg up, and reach, reach. And even reach that opposite leg. Poke, 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 poke. Right? I don't like the term lazy because I think that has a connotation to it. But in other words, don't be lazy with that extending leg on those bicycles because that will help you stay in your midline. So yeah, you can see my knees kind of staying right over my heel. That's kind of where you want to be. somewhere in that range. If your heels are too close to your butt, you're going to work your quad a little bit more, and those quads are done. At this point, those quads should be done, right? And if your heels are too far away, then it's really all going to be centered in your hamstring, which you might need, but we also want those glutes to work. So keep those hips high and then march one knee in. Now remember, this is opposite hamstring, so standing side hamstring to opposite side core. Oblique, psoas, transverse abdominis, lots of different core muscles here, but you can think standing side hamstring to opposite side core, right? No twist and shout. And then we're going into those 1.5 reps. 1.5 reps. Up, little down, little up, and all the way down. Yes. Feeling those glutes. This last one is mainly for the glutes. Really squeeze those glutes. The hamstring should work. I usually say in bridges, if you really feel your hamstrings, put your brain into your glutes. If you really feel your glutes, put your brain into your hamstrings. But those last reps are mainly for the glutes. Just like the marching is mainly for the hamstrings, they are still working together, but they want to work together, but we do have a focus. Last round. You're doing great. We are almost to the stretch, everybody's favorite part. Yes, find those pulses. Really reach up to the sky, up to the sky. Try to touch those clouds. And then butterfly those feet and do it all again. Last round, my friends, last round. It's always funny. People really like me before class and after class. Not so much in the middle. Which, I've accepted. I have accepted my fate. Good. Don't forget to breathe. We're almost there. Stretch those legs out. Last time with those abs. Oh, yes. Now, a lot of people will say like, oh, you should never do, ab curls or crunches, or flexion. You should only do planks. Everything in fitness is a pendulum. So we swing really far one way. We're going to swing really far the opposite way. I believe in both, right? I believe that there is, yes, tap those abs out. I believe that there is a place for both kinds of ab engagement, right? Your body is meant to move. Your spine is meant to move in lots of different ways. It can flex, it can extend, it can laterally flex and laterally extend. It can rotate. So you should be doing all of those things, right? Again, if you have pain in certain movement patterns, then that's something to do beforehand, but it's something to fix and work on beforehand. But if you're, able to do all of those things without pain, you should do all of those things. Yes, a stabilizing move like a plank or bird dog or anti-rotations, pull-off walkouts, all of those things are great and they are super important for your workouts, especially if you are strength training or you have a sport, right? Those are going to be your money makers. But you should also flex. You should also extend. All of those kinds of ab workouts are functional because you do those things in your day. You don't always deadlift to pick something up. Sometimes you flex the spine to pick something up. And that's okay. You're not supposed to deadlift everything. All right, stretch it out. Enough of my ranting here. Oh, we're done. We're done. Put those weights away. Yes. All right. So hands right underneath those shoulders, knees right underneath those hips. Inhale to extend the spine. Exhale to flex. Inhale to extend. Exhale to flex. I'll even say bicep curls, It's one of my favorite exercises. I don't know why, but they are. They just are. I just love them. And somebody's like, that's not functional. I'm like, I have 9 nieces and nephews now. Picking up babies is a bicep curl, right? If you're picking up a baby, especially out of a crib, that is anywhere from 8 pounds to 20 pounds, as the kid gets older, wiggly weight, right? Sit back, find that child's pose. So that's a bicep curl. So new moms, you are all should be doing those bicep curls. String one arm through the other. Just fold that shoulder. I love this little shoulder crease stretch. Thread the needle, whatever you want to call it. You can twist or you can stay square. I like the square version for right now. That's feeling really good for me. All right, tuck those toes under, sit back into those heels, walk those heels out. Yes, stretch it out, stretch out that spine, walk those feet in, hang over those legs, and on your last exhale, bend those knees, start to roll up. When you get halfway, push those knees over the center of your feet. Push the hips over the knees, ribs over the hips, shoulders over the ribs, head over everything. Thank you so much, guys. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.